Artificial intelligence is coming for your job. AI is going to replace you. We'll all be out of work.
Same company, same size, would I require 450 odd people? No. I look at only 100 people.
AI will be inventing AI. Tomorrow they will become agentic.
AI agent.
Agents.
Agent.
Agents.
Agents.
Agent.
Agentic.
Agent.
Agentic.
All of that is coming together to formulate what is now agentic AI.
If you delegate your thinking to AI, you're going to lose.
आप अपनी जर्नी और हेक्साव्यू के बारे में थोड़ा बताइए।
So I can get started. तो I think थोड़ा सा तो बैकग्राउंड ये है कि हम लोग ना हम लोगों ने 2003 जो कि इस बैच का फर्स्ट था एडमिशन, उसमें हमने लिया. सो वी आर बीटेक आईटी. वी स्टार्टेड इन 1999 and we passed out in 2003, and then we went to different paths. So he went to a company called Infosys, then he went to Oracle, and then to GlobalLogic. I went primarily to Adobe. I spent small time in Sapient, but both there we were thinking that we should do something on our own. And so when we started, we didn't have a concrete idea on what to do, but we knew that we need to succeed. That is all we knew about it. Today's freshers know so much. They know what they want to do, and they will be much more visionary than us. But what we knew was that we'll learn from the market. So we committed a lot of mistakes, did bunch of things, wrong geography, wrong set of clients, wrong offerings. You name the wrong thing that we tried, we did it. But that taught us so much that we said that this is our niche, and that niche turned out to be in the fintech domain. And then we slowly, steadily made a lot of good clients in the fintech domain. So a lot of large fintech, wealth tech, hedge funds, fund admins started working with us. The good thing is that all these relationships turned into long-term relationship, and till today also there is no sales presence in US. All sales is done by only two factors. One is the founder network, and other is the referral network. So our clients are the salespeople of our company.
And what do you think? Is AI still the future or it's the present now?
I mean, it's an interesting question, right? The LLMs first came into market in 2022, right? That actually changed the entire game. Today, we are in an era where the rate of change itself is accelerating, right? So definitely we are already in that era where people are talking about so many skills which will completely remove from the market, which will be completely removed, right? Coding is one of them. We are a services company, so definitely we are concerned. And that is why we are, exploring and we are transforming ourselves, to be more as an AI native company. So to answer your question short, yes, we are in the AI era, and the change is happening very fast. Maybe in another 3 months, we'll be talking about AGI.
Yes, sir, obviously. So is it fair to say the AI bubble is rising and it will burst soon?
So I'll say it's not a bubble anymore. At least I believe that. I feel that this is very different from the other bubbles that happened, right? With people talked about cloud bubble at that time, but the cloud is still working on, right? Similarly, AI will transform the way we work. It's a transformative technology.
And I think I have a little different view about the bubble part. And what I would like to add is, see, there are certain parts of AI which are certainly in bubble. And if you want to relate it, don't relate it to the cloud. Relate it to the WWW bubble that happened in 2000 time frame. Did internet not grow after that? It will. So AI as a technology has a bright future. But which player in AI will succeed, which player will not, will be determined by the way it was decided. When you look at what happened during 1999, every company's valuation grew 20x in 1 year, right? It should have grown 30%, right? It grew like 27 times more. And what will happen right now is the good players will remain, but the bad players and the cyclic kind of funding that is happening will be exposed to people, and the good players, 3 to good players will be there. It will either be a monopoly or it will be a duopoly for those players.
So you mean this hype is really a big valuation game, not just a bubble, right?
In some parts, yes. For example, if somebody is not making revenue, for example, if you look at what ChatGPT is doing, the kind of revenue it's generating and the kind of valuation it is there. So the best case revenue analysis of ChatGPT is that will turn up at $10 million. But it's valued at 500 billion, which is like $500 billion. If you do a peer comparison of a company which is 500 billion it has to skill scale 40x of revenue. And people don't think the chat can give that revenue, or ads inside the chatbot can give that revenue.
There's one thing to add there. If you talk about Nvidia, they are at $1 trillion company. You know, in the latest conference, GTC, Jensen mentioned that AI era, that's the reason I'm calling it is not a bubble, because we are at a different level today. It's called the inference era. So earlier, the era was training, you know, which all these LLMs, you know, they take over OpenAI, Gemini, Claude. Now we are at an era, training has been done. They are almost trained, you know, the training is still going on. But then now we are at an inference era.
Great. So like we all know that most of the AI companies are either based in USA, like we have Claude, Anthropic, OpenAI, or in China, like we have DeepSeek, Moonshot AI, we have ByteDance. So do you think India is far behind in this AI race?
I feel India is catching up, and it's catching up fast. I'm sure you guys must have heard of Sarvam, right? This is a homegrown LLM of India, supported by government, you know, giving all the infrastructure needed, right? And it is performing better than these foreign LLMs in our own language, which is Sanskrit, which is Tamil, right? The Indian languages. Similarly, you have Bharat Gen, you know, which is a consortium. So I think we are catching up, and we are catching up in all the layers of AI.
So since we are talking about Chinese AI models, like we also have many open source models, like we have Qwen, DeepSeek, and also some other Mistral and Llama models. Are these models good enough if we compare it with commercial models like Opus 4.6? Or
I can answer, then Abhishek can add. Basically, if you talk today, you know, the kind of investment US companies have done, which is in billions of dollars, whereas the Chinese companies are able to replicate similar accuracy in less cost, in 1/10 of the cost, right? They are doing it millions rather than billions. So if we have at Hexaview, we have utilized these open source models, right? For our own internal POCs, for even for certain customers, and they have performed at, you know, at very exceptional levels in certain cases, right? And we are, as a company, have also invested in research. So we are partnered with research firms, and we are doing benchmarking of these LLMs.
so you mean if we do a basic level of fine tuning, these models are good enough to compete with other commercial models?
You go ahead and look at all the benchmarks, right? They are at par with all these. And every alternate day or maybe every week, a new version is coming up. So they are picking up.
Great. Sir, what's your take about small language models?
So I think, as I said, large language models need a lot of infra. They need a lot of money, right? And that is why we are moving at, when I say at an inference layer, that is where the SLMs, you know, come into picture. That is where I think India is also working on it. And it works on something called, I don't know, I mean, I just want to add a little bit of technology here. It's called MOE, Mixture of Experts. That's the kind of architecture that they use. And, you know, now, tomorrow, you will have an LLM running on your mobile. Actually, Apple has made it live today also, but it will be much faster tomorrow.
Do you think we are getting too dependent on AI? Like for small emails, now we use ChatGPT. It's like shrinking human capability of thinking.
So I think I'll answer this question along with one of the things that you talked about, that where is India placed? To be honest, India is right now very far behind all these people who are doing it. But the strength of India has never been, India never developed a Windows OS, or India never developed a Google. But still India is considered to be the best technical talent and the user of the technology that was developed. So India is right now, if you look at it, India is number 3, which is not bad to have. So if India can say that, okay, LLM, somebody else is doing, but the major money will be made on usage of these LLMs to make a great product or to make a great service, that is going to be the unlock value for India. And that India is very well placed.
India might soon become the largest consumer of AI, but we still don't have enough builders.
Absolutely. So the Sarvam example is like a hookup solution to the real big things that are happening. So if you look at it, China is a closed ecosystem, but if you go inside China, it's way ahead of US. And so we don't want to compete at that layer. That is not our strength. We want to compete the layer that is our strength. And our strength cannot be stolen by anyone. So I really believe India has a great future in AI. Now, you said that what role does AI play in now taking away the brain part of it? So example, even to write a mail, we are taking help. So See, we were considered an economy which were not that great in communication in comparison to the UK or the US. So it's a boon if used in the right way. And the right way is exactly what you said. So if you delegate your thinking to AI, you're going to lose. So you write down what you want to write, try to then put a scenario to the AI that this is what I want to convey and this is what my feelings are. Then it actually produces a good output. So use AI to augment your thinking rather than to delegate it your.
So what do you think, which industries will be most affected by AI in coming years?
See, anything which is it's a gradual process. So next 1 year, anything that is it's a repeatable process will be gone. Then 1.5 to 2 years, anything that is something like coding would be gone. So when I say what is a repeatable process, for example, data entry is a repeatable process.
Yes, sir.
If you look at what NemoClaw, OpenClaw or Coworks has done, it has actually exposed that, right? Somebody sits on your computer, is able to get what the next task will be, does that task and ask you if this task is done well, learn that your personality is this, so it can do that. So, for example, we were working with a very big telecom giant who said that I have 14,000 executives who are doing calling. Can you reduce that only to 3,000 executives who are really doing talking? And 12,000 of them would be agents now. So imagine that what will happen to those jobs, right? They will go off. But there's some jobs as listed by Microsoft, which are the foolproof jobs, right? Jobs in the medical science industry, jobs in the hospitality industry, jobs which require you to actually have some sort of interaction with a human. Those are the long-term jobs.
Sir said that coding is the most affected job, but do you really think like we have two coding tools like Lovable, we have Bolt and Emergent and all such tools? If we exclude basic kind of landing pages, are these tools good enough?
Right. So no, I'll say I have a different view here in terms of coding. I have been a builder. So you are right. I mean, there are tools out there which has made our life easy. Right now, they're at co-pilot stage. They're assisting us. Tomorrow, they will become agentic, right? So Hexaview has bet on it. We have made a 2030 vision, where we have bet on it that the way the whole industry is evolving, it will become agentic. And when anything becomes, agentic, it becomes more complex. Anything which is more complex cannot be dealt by normal human beings. There has to be specialized people to deal with it. That is where we are going. In terms of agentic, we are placing ourselves as a managed agentic service provider for regulated industry, especially regulated, because in regulated industries, you still have government norms which you have to fulfill. So I feel the software as a service, as I mentioned in my talk as well, it becomes service as a software, and it is a $1 trillion opportunity.
So, sir, it means there will be more generalized jobs to manage AI than specialized jobs like we used to have back-end developers and front-end developers.
Absolutely. I think you got a great point. Everybody now has to go towards generalization rather than specialization. So I think you've summarized it well.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay. Like I have already asked it, and which tools do you use the most in your day-to-day life?
Interesting question. And if you asked me 1 year back, I would have said a set of tools now. But now I'll tell you, 3 months back, I was very, very happy with Gemini. I was using it for a lot of my work. Then I shifted to Claude 3 months back. And my entire stack has changed now. I am not getting a lot of automation done using a new tool released by NVIDIA called NemoClaw, which is able to, it has an heartbeat.mdi and then there is a soul.m. It learns me so fast, right? It understands what I'm trying to do. And that was impossible to do. For example, I had to make my own calendar that what all meetings I need to shift for today. I just told it as a prompt that today I have a talk till 2:30 p.m. Can you help me reschedule all my meetings after that? And it said that this seems to be an internal meeting. You can skip that. This seems to be a client meeting. It might not move because it was reading the domain name. So imagine the kind of complexities it is generating. Even when I'm dealing with the marketing team, we use a lot of tools like Clay, etc., which are N8N, which you do workflow automation. So my stack keeps on changing. And so these days I'm very amused by a set of tools called as AI SEO tools. What they do is they study your company and they generate the keywords, and based upon those keywords, they generate some queries which will help you rank top on the LLMs, right? So SEO is being replaced by GEO and AEO.
Do you think AI itself is a big threat to cybersecurity?
I'm sure you must have had those stories, right? An AI ran RM-F and it deleted your entire hard disk, right? So it is a very big threat. And that's why a lot of, energy is being spent. A lot of buzz is there in the cybersecurity space. There are a lot of, but the point is, even the cybersecurity will ultimately be done by AI. Just like you have hackers, right? You have normal hackers and then you have ethical hackers. Similarly, with AI, there will be flavors of AI that cybersecurity will be using to protect it from the attack. So it is one of the hottest fields right now.
Sir, I am researched about your company. You also have a child company, Nov. Sorry, sir. Tell us how different is it from Hexaview?
Absolutely. So Nuav, the meaning of Nuav is Nav, boat, right, in Hindi. So that is the name of the company. The company has started by my friend, Umesh. And that guy, we worked together in Global Logic. So the idea was he's based out of US and we are in India, right? So the idea is that he himself is a very good sales guy. And at the end of the day, he doesn't have the capability and capacity to deliver. That is where Hexaview has come into picture, where we are augmenting that, the best of both worlds, the best of sales and the best of delivery. I think they are very concentrated on data part. They are very concentrated on healthcare. So the way Nuav and Hexaview is structured, we are complementing each other. We are more into finance. We are more into AI. They are more into data. They are more into healthcare. So I think we are using each other's strengths.
Do these companies have shared board of directors or?
I mean, I do sit on its board, but I think it is completely managed independently by the founder, Umesh, and he is making and taking all the shots. He has recently bought a new CEO, so I think it's on a good growing path.
Okay. Sir, if you have to start a new IT company today with almost zero resources, how will you start the company and get your first client?
Right. So I think let's assume today I am completely quitting Hexaview and I have to start something. So see, for me today, if I have to do that, the kind of network I have developed. So if you look at, I have like 10,000 decision makers sitting in US who read my post daily. And also then the kind of knowledge that I have acquired in AI, I feel very confident that if I have to start something on my own today, I'll be able to scale it up because of the kind of thought process I have. So if I look at it right now, because of the things that I've acquired so if you asked me when I done Hexaview for 6 years, my network was hardly anything. Then I've put a lot of effort into network. So people think that the biggest thing is the idea. That is not the case. It is the execution of the idea that is more important. Its second thing is the network. Whom you know. Can you open a door? In my case, I can open a lot of doors whom I can actually go ahead and say that, trust me, I have delivered this much. They will give me a small work and then I'll do and land and expand. So that is what I can do right.
What will you advise to a 20-year-old founder who don't have a network like?
See, there is no two ways about it. You need to get that network. So start small, identify what you want to build, and then say that I want to stick on this for 3 years. Because see, no idea is bad idea. Once you decide that you want to stick on this idea for 3 years, attend conferences of those, attend meetups of those parts, go to some places where you will meet like-minded people, go to some of your college mates who are connected to some of these people, and become an outgoing. So the biggest problem I faced after 5 years was I was an introvert. I had to convert myself to do sales into an outgoing person. So first step is to become, see, I can talk randomly to any person now. That is the skill that you now need to develop.
Yes.
Right? So it's a lot of skills that you need to develop other than technology now. See, technology can be taken care not even with or without AI. But if you don't have the network, if you can't go ahead and talk, if you don't want to learn, then it's a big problem.
Okay, so what is the basic infrastructure or amount of capital that 20-year-old founder you're guiding needs to start his business?
And this depends on a lot of factors, right? So for example, if you're doing something on the deep tech side, it is deep tech because it is deep tech, right? So for that, you will require 100 engineers, right? You'll require $100 million of funding. You'll have to be in Bay Area because all the innovation is happening there. The biggest of the biggest brains are there. And the concept in Bay Area is that you're either up or out. So if you don't grow, then your startups get killed automatically. So if you're doing something on deep tech, if you want to do something on the distribution side, The PLG is a very good platform. For that, you don't need too much money. 100K would suffice. But what I will recommend to people is that pick a vertical. Pick a vertical that you're motivated about. It could be, let's say, I want to work only on crypto. Or I could do a vertical AI company like, let's say, I understand finance a lot. Let me go into one area of finance, solve that problem, and then say, okay, what can I do to optimize it using the AI? The biggest strength of a one-person company is that this 1,000-people company cannot pivot. But that one-person company can actually start from scratch, make something which is very, very big.
Okay, and like there are people like me who are not engineers. I am from finance and commerce background, and I switched to tech. So what advice if you have to give me?
So I think one line advice will be don't fear tech.
And don't fear taxes.
What you have to do is that these days the learning platforms are so intelligent. If you start learning one module, the next recommendation they will show is according to. So when I opened my YouTube, I said, oh, this guy said this in AI, this guy said this in AI. I said, oh, today I'm completely bored with AI, but it will still throw me every recommendation of AI, right? So what you should do is start learning about AI. Second is dirty your own hands, right? If I left coding 15 years ago, but so I developed a CRM in the last 1 week. I developed MS Paint using my own hands, all using Claude. And then I shifted to OpenClaw, right? So it is, for me also, it was like a big change, right? I was an engineer, wrote code for Illustrator day in, day out till 2010. And then I started writing code again.
You are CTO of the company. So how could a finance person switch into that domain properly?
So as we all know, or nowadays, right, coding can be done through agents, the co-pilots of the world. So what is important? The important is to understand the business problem. That is where a finance guy has a better insight than a tech guy, because he understands the domain, he understands the problem. Now, if he doesn't, understand how to code it, you have AI agents to do it. So today, a finance guy is better placed to start on his own if he wants to start on his own, or even to solve a business problem.
But sir, a finance guy won't definitely understand the technicalities. Like we have API tokens, we have security issues, we have edge cases. So how will you advise him to manage?
So see, earlier, in order to learn all these things, you either have to pay a lot of money, you have to go to a third party, to do for you, or you have to, hire engineers, right, to do it. I think today the learning curve has reduced because you have AI in your hand. So just like I gave this example at other talks also, right? Just like goddess Durga, right? They have multiple hands, right, to deal with the demon. I think nowadays the business problem is your demon. To deal with it, use AI. One of the hands will be solving, one of the agents will be solving business, one of the agents will be learning tech, and then you'll be utilizing that. So I think don't fear learning, keep learning using AI.
So do you think if a tech founder like uses only one or two tools is actually enough? Because most of the AI tools we see are wrappers around ChatGPT or Claude or something.
Right. I think that's an excellent point, that most of the our tools are nothing but wrappers, right? So I think the tool selection is totally based on your use case. It is not necessary to use 100 tools to do the job. Right now, you have OpenClaw. Using one tool, it can actually connect to all the 100 other tools, right? So the idea here is whatever is suitable for you, just use that. And today, personalization is happening because of AI, which means you can now pick and choose your own tool, which others might be using a different tool altogether.
For particular purposes, which tools will you recommend?
Sure.
Email writing.
I think email, everybody uses ChatGPT. I started using ChatGPT, if I'll use that.
Coding.
For coding, I think we have Cursor. So this is a good tool out there.
So what's your take about Claude Code and OpenAI has Codex?
I think every passing day, these tools are maturing. If you want to go towards agentic coding, so Claude Code has something called skills and something called hooks, right? That way you can impart skills to a Claude Code and it can generate code. Similarly, Codex has their own set. So it's very tough competition right now. If you ask me 2 weeks down the line, somebody might be above somebody, on the benchmark. But I think from my personal experience, Claude Code is better.
Design and creatives.
Design and creatives. I don't know if you use Gamma for presentations. Yeah. So I think Gamma is one where you can create very good presentations.
Sir, question for you. you are the CEO of the company. If you are dealing with a client and in the project something goes wrong, so who is responsible? You or the tech vendor, like you are using ChatGPT or Claude or something?
Okay, so the question is that something goes wrong and the code has been written using ChatGPT. So I think the core of the principle is that the buck stops at the founder / the CEO, right? So I need to take blame of what. See, I'm having the upside, so I should also have the downside. So ideally, I will take the responsibility if the problem is at my end, and that is what all my clients appreciate. If you accept the problem and then say we'll do a corrective action, they're very happy about it. But if you don't accept your problem and then you lie 10 times to save that one lie, then it's a big problem. So I will not blame my team for it. Firstly, I'll go and see what is happening. But I am a very harsh performance master as well. So if the team has not done well, I will make sure there is a first warning given to the team. And if the same thing is repeated over, then obviously I would like to have somebody else work on that. So that is non-compromisable because, as I said in the presentation, right, I believe in perfection.
So, like, if you see the product development life cycle, how it is different now from 4 or 5 years back without AI?
So it's a night and day difference. For example, if let's say, I'll give you a practical example. 1 year back, out of the 400 people company, the enterprise product development was 200 people. Okay. And the data was like 80 people big, and then 80 people were on the CRM side, the tool side, and then there was miscellaneous things. In the last 1 year, people have stopped coming to us saying that I want to develop a tool. What they say is that, oh, I have already developed a tool which is 70% complete. Can you do the rest of the 30% in 4 weeks? So imagine what was the scenario earlier. They said that I have, let's say, 20 lakh rupees and I want to develop a tool. Can you develop it in next 3 months? Now they are saying, we'll give you 2 lakh rupees. Can you develop the tool 30% of the balance tool, because they can't develop 100% in the chat, in the coding tools, the vibe coding tools, right? So that is a very big difference. So our team of the enterprise product development has shrunk a lot, but what has grown a lot is the data. So AI works on the data. So if the data is junk, it will be junk out, right? So it's like junk in, junk out. So the data team has grown 3 times in the last 1 year. So that is what the difference is.
As you said that your coding team or programming team has shrunk. So is it negatively affecting the employment part?
So I will say that what has happened is that we have started to now upskill our employees, and when that happens, the skill has to be changed. So people who are willing to do that have grown in the company like anything. The good thing is that, see, despite all this happening, the way we were able to adopt using our 2030 AI roadmap, we are right now sitting at record profits, record revenue as I speak to you today, right? And the reason is that we have been able to now leverage AI to do things faster. So somebody who's leaving, we might not replace that person, but somebody who's flexible and ready to adopt AI, we love that person. But if you want to build a same company, would I require still same company, same size? Would I require 450 odd people? No, I require only 100 people to do that.
Do you think that AI is the last invention of humans? All other inventions will be done by AI.
Interesting question. So definitely AI is not the last. And you are right, there will be a time that AI will be inventing AI, right? AI will be inventing the next LLM. AI will be writing the next SLM. But then we're also talking about quantum, right? So the field is changing very fast. It's very difficult to predict. The point is, ride the wave. Be there at the forefront and continue to ride the wave. See where the industry is going, make adjustments and ride the wave. I think that will make a difference.
Sir, do you think that silver market is rising so much? Last year, silver was priced around 1 lakh and now it's over 3 lakhs. AI is the reason of that rise because in GPUs we use silver.
So I think, see, silver has an industrial use, but the industrial use has not increased 3x. It might have increased, if it was increasing 10% year on year, it might have increased 30% year on year. But if you look at the price history of silver, silver is one of the most volatile commodities ever produced. So there have been very past instances where silver became 100% risen in next 6 months, and there was a 70% fall in a week, and that will continue. So the real price of silver might be lower than what it is right now. You saw a correction coming from 4 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs in a matter of week, right? So who stops another correction to take it back to, let's say, 130 or 140? So the price has to rise, but the way it has risen is not the right matrices to measure it.
Sir, also there are a lot of environmental concerns for using AI because we need commercial GPUs. So in future, how you see AI industries working on environmental?
So I think that's a very good topic to think about. See, the world is an adaptive world, right? Even if you look at Indians, they're called as jugadus, right? So so the world right now is in the premise that we want to capture AI market. So nobody is thinking about environment, and that's why your question is good. But there'll be small companies who will become giants because they will handle the problem of heat dissipation, the power things, the water usage, and these companies will come as like the next generation companies who will handle this kind of AI pressure with much better ease. But they are not right now, not in the limelight. Are we doing enough? No, we are not doing enough. Would we do enough in the future? Yes, when this bubble breaks, then a lot of rethinking will go into what it does it make to sustain this kind of thing. So it's some way far, but it is a valid question.
Okay, so how do you see tech industry in next 5 years by 2031 or 2032?
So I think we have ourselves set a goal of 2030, right? And we see the whole tech industry will be evolving. As I said, agentic will come into picture. So there will be tech industries or companies who will be managing agentic services. That's point number one. There will be new types of jobs that will come up, right? Because the old one will be replaced by some new jobs. That will be there. And I think a lot of work, as Abhishek mentioned, a lot of work will go into how to sustain this kind of infrastructure, right, in AI. Nobody is really bothered today, as in the last question about environment. I think I am definitely concerned about it. And there will be new areas of development and new companies coming up there. So I think in the next 5 years, it will be very exciting. I can't predict it, but I'm sure it will be an exciting world for all of us.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It was a great time having you both here.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you as well.
Thank you.